Good Thursday evening, everybody. Meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center taking a look at that current radar map. You don't see really any shower accent around. I know we're focusing mainly here on the coastal flood alerts that are in play. And you do see a coastal flood warning as we're getting down there toward parts of Putnam and Flagler counties remain in effect here into Friday now. So we're still watching that potential because I know we had all that rain last week from destructive Hurricane Ian, and that rain still, that moisture still is lingering around there in some of the different water bodies. I know the St. Johns River, for instance, definitely seeing that water level still stay up there. It's starting to recede some, but still having some issues here. And you see in that lime green, closer to where Duval and St. John's, there's still some issues. You see some of those yellow dots there on the screen indicative here of that flood potential. The orange is a little more significant. Of course, purple is major flooding, and we have that more the case towards central Florida, but one of those purple dots is in toward Flagler County. So just got to be really kind of mindful of what can happen in this type of scenario here. I just got to be really cognizant of the dangers that this flooding can cause here. Russell Landing, that's where we're focusing there in Flagler County. So just wanted to kind of touch on this at the top again, just to remind folks, be really careful as you're out there in some of these areas, because some areas could still have some flooding in them closer, especially toward those water bodies. So I just got to keep that in mind. But let's go ahead now and see this current temperatures right now across the region. We'll go ahead and show you that on our other computer source, and you'll be able to see right now we're getting readings in the 50s and 60s here, mainly a couple 70s popping on up, but overall cooling on down. I know it was really chilly here yesterday morning. In my rural spot is about the lowest temperature we saw in the whole area. Got down to 45 degrees, but we're not going to see quite temperatures like that as we look ahead. We're going to start to moderate here. Those temperatures going to start to moderate here later on in the timeline. So that's something to keep in mind here as we are looking ahead. But just kind of seeing again a clear radar picture as we alluded to. There's some ground clutter. Could have some patchy fog here as we look ahead into that Friday, but I have the ground clutter turned off because we're not too concerned with that. But I know Monday is Columbus Day here, and weather for Columbus Day looking pretty good here overall as we are kind of keeping an eye on things. Of course, tomorrow also a University of Florida homecoming, Gator homecoming there. FSU didn't get to have a homecoming here in the fall, but the spring will be when that homecoming is held there toward Tallahassee. It looks like being rescheduled because of Ian. But tomorrow's homecoming festivities for the Gators there. The Gator fans, they look pretty good there. The weather looks to cooperate. A little on the warm side maybe, but the humidity not as much of a factor still when we're getting toward those 80s. And we're not seeing the chances of rain really around. So that's some pretty good weather in my book here as we're looking toward Alachua County and north central Florida. But where I'm at right now, we're down to 60.8 degrees. So again, those temperatures here looking pretty good out there. As we've kind of alluded to, you a couple 70s on the board, a few 70s, I guess 4 to be total, or to total them up here in total. You see 72 there, south side of Jacksonville, east side of Duval, 72, and then 70 there, eastern Nassau County, eastern Glenn County at 73 degrees. So some of these could update on us downward here in short order. But just as we get closer toward those warmer water temperatures, you generally have a tendency to have warmer temperatures here in general. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of those cameras right now across the region. We'll go ahead and pop some of those up here. We'll start off in Jacksonville, and you'll be able to see here I-95 at Hendricks Avenue, giving you guys a visual of what's going on there right now. Things look pretty calm, and that's a pretty nice skyline here on this Thursday evening. Those conditions looking pretty good out there. Again, just watch out for maybe some fog to develop here as we look toward that Wednesday morning. So we'll just continue to watch for that here as we get later on in the timeline. I know it looks like we're having a little bit of an issue here with our mouse right now, but you know how it goes. There we go. I decided to work on us there again, but we'll go ahead and go down now in the show towards St. Johns County, and you'll see I-95 International Golf Parkway, kind of telling that weather story. Again, nice conditions, folks. I mean, it's what you call Chamber of Commerce type weather. They were saying that earlier in the chat session there at the National Weather Service. So one of the different offices around, I think it was Jacksonville, but I just saw it pop up here. Definitely a story here as we're looking ahead. So I really want to enjoy things here as we get further on in toward the timeline. So just kind of enjoy things. We're going to have a chance of rain start to become a predominant story as we get later next week. And unfortunately here, I'll go back over toward the map now. Let's go ahead and go back on over toward the map. It could impact Bradford homecoming week. We'll see. It's too early to get on the details here. What I look like to me here in some of the modeling is it might be more of an issue maybe for what locals call here in North Central Florida tornado world next Thursday night. We're getting out there versus maybe the game or the parade on Friday. So that would be some good news, but obviously you don't want any of the impacts there from rain to occur during any of those homecoming festivities. So we'll just kind of keep our eyes on things here in the Weather Center in that regard, and we'll let you know more about that on Tuesday here as you tune in on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, or Twitch here. We have all those different platforms. Of course, you can subscribe there on YouTube. Meteorologist Casey Cloud, another way there to watch maybe on your Roku device, something like that, or watch it on your TV as if as a traditional television broadcaster. You can watch, even just use that HDMI cable, hook that up from your computer to your TV and watch it that way, or on that YouTube app, your Twitter app, your Facebook app on your mobile device as well. Some different options here for you to watch cloud weather here while you're on the go. But of course, obviously not while you're actually driving, but as you're maybe just kind of taking a quick break there, or just if you're in the passenger seat, of course. But we're just going to go ahead now and switch on over toward a look back in weather history. First off, of course, at Ian, which is not really history too much yet, but then we're going to talk about Michael here as well. We're going to go ahead and talk about Ian, though, and I just show you again this destructive storm, and as of the latest information here from the Florida Department of Law Enforcement here, 89 fatalities reported. Now, this number probably going to go up some more here as we get more confirmations on in, but that's the latest number here. Confirmed there by the medical examiner group is kind of trying to get a handle on exactly what occurred. Many of those fatalities there tragically in Lee County, and it seems many of those would have probably been because of drowning in that storm surge. It's so tragic and so horrific there. But you see, the max sustained winds were at 150 miles an hour at landfall. That pressure there, 940 millibars, and it had that slower movement and larger size, which significantly increased that storm surge impact. We compared it to Charlie back on Tuesday, and this was much bigger in size here and slower. And again, and that is both really contributed to that storm surge because Charlie didn't really have that near as much in a similar spot, making landfall, same spot actually, but this one did because of those factors here, setting it apart and making it one of the deadlier hurricanes in Florida history here, it seems. As we go ahead and show you Michael, though, the anniversary is coming up, and there's still things that have to be fixed out there to some degree. Obviously, they're further along in the recovery process than they are down towards southwest Florida, much further along. But Category 5 hurricane there caused catastrophic damage. Max sustained winds at 160 miles an hour, and that minimum pressure 919 millibars. And that was just, you saw the pressure 940 on an Ian there, 919. That's even a more significant hurricane in terms of that wind. Now that eye wall here, you see the eye wall here, I would say a little bit smaller maybe. It's kind of, you have to look at some of the different maps here and measure it. I wasn't going to really talk too much about that, but just kind of seeing that here as we compare the two images. It depends on how you're zoomed in, but the point of that is really the storm surge with this one wasn't quite as bad because of some different factors. But the wind damage was quite a bit worse here in some regards because not just the winds being a little stronger here, it had a quicker movement, so it was able to transport those winds further inland here in a more efficient manner. And then also the building codes aren't as high in terms of those wind speed standards up in North Florida as they are in Southwest Florida. I know a lot of that because of Hurricane Andrew in '92, they wanted to raise those building code levels there towards Southwest Florida because it's what everybody saw towards Southeast Florida and the Miami areas there in Dade County there in '92. But let's go ahead and show you now the strongest continental U.S. hurricanes there on record against, again, Michael, 2018, there 160 mile per hour max sustained winds. Ian and 7 others, including Ida and also Laura here in the last couple of years, 150 mile per hour winds. Charlie on that list of the 7 others as well. That's 3 of the 7 right there as we're looking at things. So definitely this terrible list here indeed. And I do want to go ahead and talk right now, though, about some more information toward areas there in Southwest Florida in regard to power outages. I know you guys want to get a handle on what's going on right now on those. So let's go ahead and move away from the graphics here real quick. And we'll come right back to them in just a moment. But let's go ahead and see the power outage information right now. This is as about 9:45 or so. 152,101 customers in the dark here still, according to PowerOutage.us. So a significant number of folks, but the restoration effort has really been astounding in some regard, because I mean we were at 2.5 million customers in the dark a week ago, and it really has taken a really significant effort there to get the power back on for folks. I mean, some areas can't even receive power because the damage is so significant, but still over 150,000 folks, customers in the dark here at this point. And you see Collier County, I believe they went back to school today there, 6,775 customers in the dark toward that area. So that's a pretty low percentage overall. You see Lee County there, they were really, really hard hit. That's where the fatalities really are adding up, it seems. 98,260 customers in the dark. Then as we get up towards Charlotte County there, well, first off, let's start with Charlotte. I'm going to talk about DeSoto here in a second, though, but 28,190 customers in the dark. We'll go over to Sarasota County now, 13,581 customers there without electricity. And then DeSoto County here, that's a pretty low number overall here, but it's a more rural area, 1,937 customers here in the dark there. I know the Bradford County Sheriff's Office is in a group down there to help with some different things in the ward area. We're talking about communities like Arcadia there. I know they had some significant flooding threats that came into play there, significant amounts of damage that have to be dealt with still in that more rural area as we get a little bit further away from the coast. So just kind of giving you guys an idea of some of those power outages. Let's go ahead and move away from this map right now. We'll go ahead and come back on camera here. We just wanted to kind of give you an update on all of that, and we'll go ahead and move along in the show now and show you here a look at that tropical climatology. We still have to get through another month here, give or take, and then things really start to fall on down on us here, and the chances for storm development really, of course, it only takes one, and this Ian event here may have been that one as we got towards Southwest Florida. But you just never know. Could end up having more. I know that too. That enough for hurricane season. So busy for Florida. So at this point, we're getting later on in the year. Hopefully, we don't have any storms that kind of try to come after another big hurricane. And, you know, hopefully, we don't have another one of those in store for us. But the Atlantic hurricane season now running through November 30th. Our next names on the list are Julie and Carl here, Lisa after that. And we'll go ahead and see here we have potential tropical cyclone number 13 here, just north of Venezuela. You can see that right down here. We'll watch that, but right now that could become a hurricane, but more likely it'll head towards Central America. So that's some good news for the continental U.S., but of course bad news for those folks down there. And then as we get toward areas further east, this one not as big of a concern. Even tropical depression number 12, we're not really paying too much attention to that one right now. It shouldn't be too big of a factor here in the Atlantic Basin. But let's take a look now at the next 7 days here in terms of that rainfall forecast. You see South Florida, they're going to start to get into some rain here. Not tremendous amounts necessarily, but some moisture could start to become a storyline down there. So we'll have to watch for that. We'll have to watch for that as you get towards some of these lighter blue areas on the map. So we're talking about maybe an inch or so. I mean, if there's areas obviously that were damaged by the storm that still need to be covered up, maybe the roofs I'm talking about. Really, if there's holes in those roofs, I need to get some blue tarp on them there because that rain could start to become a storyline as we look ahead. But that's not flooding rain, so at least, and it's been quiet. It's been pretty lucky so far. But I know, looking here in the chat session, they're talking that the National Weather Service in Tampa extending out flood warning for the Horse Creek near Arcadia at State Road 72 until October 9th at 6 p.m. So got to be watching those water levels to some extent. It shouldn't cause too big of a change in those, though. And then as we get up toward North Florida and South Florida, you see pretty low amounts of rain overall. But as we get toward the end of the period here, that's talking maybe about this time next week that we could start to see maybe some rain and storms start to come back in the picture. Of course, we'll keep you updated on that threat. You have cloudweather.com/radar for the latest. And then we'll go ahead and say you now some college football game forecast before we get to that extended forecast. Of course, UF homecoming here this weekend, this Saturday. Looking at this here, I know everybody's excited for that there if they're a Gator fan, and you can see the Missouri Tigers will be in town. They almost beat Georgia. That was a interesting game last Saturday, but couldn't quite get the job done. And then you can see there, low to mid 80s, 5% chance of rain, mostly sunny conditions. So a little bit warm, I guess, but it doesn't get too much better than that, really, for this time of year with that weather. Again, noon kickoff on ESPNU if you're not going to the game. And then big game for the Seminoles here. A Saturday night, a big 3-game stretch for my Seminoles. I have my FSU tie on. Hopefully we can get that win, a rebound win after losing to Wake Forest last week. 8 o'clock kickoff there on the ACC network Saturday night in Raleigh, mid-50s, so a little bit cool out there, but no rain really a factor as we get towards central North Carolina. So that's some good news here, but again, a little bit cool, a little bit nippy out there, if you want to call it that. And then toward the Jaguar game on Sunday there on CBS, Jacksonville, Florida is where it'll be. Mid-80s, 5% chance of rain as the Texans coming to town. We're not too concerned about the rain. The breeze, though, might start to become a factor. A little bit breezy there. Mostly sunny in the River City as we're looking at this contest there. So hopefully the Jags can get back to that winning record here that they had after beating the Chargers a couple weeks ago. Looking like a pretty good year so far, at least, for Trevor Lawrence and first-year coach Doug Peterson. Of course, he won the Super Bowl with the Philadelphia Eagles going back a few years ago, and them teaming on up here, making things pretty exciting toward the first coast in terms of football. I mean, Jacksonville Jaguars doing good, the Seminoles doing good. Florida has a new coach. It's still to be determined how good they're doing. And even high school football is going pretty good for some teams. I know my Bradford Tornadoes are off this week, but they're undefeated. So we'll see how things go. My Bradford High School Tornadoes, kind of crazy to have a mascot of the tornado there. But that's just how it goes sometimes. That's how it is here in North Bradford County. My alma mater. But as we go ahead and look ahead now toward that planning forecast, you can see 5% chance of rain here tomorrow, 5% chance Saturday, 10% on Sunday. You can see those rain chances going up some, not a lot here initially, though I wouldn't be too concerned here about these through Tuesday, maybe even through Wednesday to some degree. These aren't really going to be too big of a deal. These rain chances here, 88, 86, the general trend maybe cooling down a little there. The afternoon highs, lows warming up as we get more moisture around. But then Thursday's the day to start to watch things a little bit. Both of our models here, as you see it cooling down toward maybe 84 for that high on Thursday, 40% chance of rain though. Both of those models, the Euro and the GFS, indicating some rain and storms around. So we have to keep our eyes on that. I don't know if anything will be as strong. It's too early to determine that here this far out. But may get some heavier rain here to mix in at times. Could have to raise that rain chance significantly here. It just kind of depends because we're really kind of on the edge of the science still, as we saw with Ian. Obviously, we couldn't pinpoint that about a week out, the exact spot. And the same thing with this potential threat of storms here on Thursday. So just something to kind of keep our eyes on here in regard to that. But the average lows getting closer to what you would generally expect. And again, the highs a little above average. We'll point it out one more time here, 82, 83, and pretty much above those benchmarks here as we look ahead. But things looking pretty good here as we get later on in the timeline, again, until maybe Thursday. Well, you don't get too concerned about that yet. It's just both models are indicating a pretty good amount of precipitation in spots. Just, again, something that is really tentative in nature. Things can always change here, again, as we saw with the tropics in terms of those local impacts. So not saying there's any tropical system out there. Don't worry even about Thursday here at this point. But we'll go ahead and switch back on over as we get back on to our other computer system here. You can see 69 degrees Tallahassee right now, 64 in Keystone, there toward the Keystone Airport area right there, just from the Clay County line over into Bradford County where I'm at here. So just kind of giving you some readings. We'll go down to Southwest Florida. I know folks have some interest down here. Not many sensors showing up still because there's still issues because of that damage, but you can see the 70s there as we get toward areas like Sarasota. Zoom in some of these may be showing up a little bit better later on, but So things will just come and go. You have Okeechobee County 66, so the temperatures aren't too bad down there. You see Southeast Florida there, upper 70s a story. So it's starting to get a little warm. I was looking at some of the coverage there from some of the local stations down there today in Southwest Florida. And we're starting to see those temperatures get a little bit on the hotter side. So got to start to be a little more careful with that heat safety. But at least we had a good reprieve because some storms you get really hot weather after them. Some storms you had the cool air come in, at least despite this being such a terrible storm. Ian was just a terrible storm. At least we had the cool air come in afterward to help with the recovery efforts that are still ongoing there to try to restore the community. And those are going to be going on for a while here as we're looking toward these different spots. It's so hard in Southwest Florida. We'll zoom in again just to kind of break things down for you. You see Bonita Springs. You see here Fort Myers Beach. I mean, you've seen the images, of course. I showed you some of those images there as we were getting back last Friday on the cover. You see Captiva there, Pineland. Some of these areas here are just devastated. Sanibel. I mean, some folks having trouble getting there back to where they have their home. Even, I mean, of course, though, it just kind of at least they're okay though. The folks that are trying to get back. I mean, again, some people that didn't make it, as we've talked about here before, with that storm surge just coming on in toward these areas. So we'll go ahead and zoom back on out here. And just kind of see again, it's just interesting. The METAR sites, we have all these up here. There generally are sites down here. It's just they're not reporting right now because of everything that's happened. I'll go back 4 hours. Yeah, we did have some of them earlier. I'm not so exactly how they're powered. It's interesting that they would go back off the screen here from time to time. But you can see we had 80s there, mid 80s there about 4 hours ago as we kind of back that on up there as we're looking towards Southwest Florida. I mean, it's going to be a story about, just the community coming together down there towards Southwest Florida strong for those folks in the aftermath of Ian. Just all the destruction, all the pictures, all the life-changing events that have taken place that we've seen here in those visuals over the last several days here as a meteorology community. I think that pretty much does it. I know Rocket was supposed to go up tonight. Looking like it'll go up tomorrow night as of last check here. As we get toward that 7 o'clock hour, give or take. And again, just watch out for that fog here in the morning. One other thing I do want to point out is we got to watch out. It can also get a little too dry sometimes up here. We saw less moisture there in the forecast initially, and we got to start watching out maybe, especially in our western areas, for maybe some fire concerns. Weather Service in Tallahassee talking about that, some wildfire concerns. Not completely out of the question. We saw that western viewing area there on Wednesday, some wildfires starting to develop. So just got to be kind of careful in that regard. But otherwise, just have a great weekend out there. We'll be back on Tuesday with more weather information. Thanks so much for tuning in and trusting me. Have a great night and just try to enjoy that weekend the best you can.